Make it before the bank closes. With our integrated teller, you can talk to a live person as late as 7 p.m. on weekdays and noon on Saturdays. It's not just an ATM, it's an ITM. First Choice Bank, your choice for banking.
When C.K. Little opened his doors in downtown Corinth nearly 80 years ago, his plan was simple: deliver excellent service and exceed expectations. That's why we say a little gift goes a long way.
Mississippi's trusted weather experts. This is Mississippi Live Weather at 5.
Welcome in, Mississippi Live Weather at 5. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lopon here as we are looking toward a busy show, tracking some storms that have popped up around the region. Better chances over the next couple of days. Also with our eyes a little deeper up into the sky, looking towards space as we're watching the Artemis II launch. We'll have a live look at that potentially at the beginning of this, toward the end of this broadcast here. Their launch window kind of starting around 5:24, a 2-hour launch window this evening. First time we've been to space in decades. We will talk more about that here in a couple of minutes. Scattered showers and storms, that's something we're also looking at out there at this time, as all eyes continue to be focused on Easter weekend and a chance for rainfall that will impact some of your plans. So looking over the course of the first 12 hours here, 6 p.m., we're 30% on that coverage of rainfall there, diminishing around 20% by 9 and drier as we head later on into this evening time period. Mentioned this a moment ago, Artemis launch, we're looking at the vehicle there on the launch pad. Expected again, this one of the big ones, only the 7th space vehicle that the United States has ever put into space, and we're looking at a one right there. So kind of a phenomenal opportunity to see history in the making this evening. Big rocket, and we'll talk a lot more about all the things related to that in a minute. But a launch slated on this trip that's supposed to slingshot around the moon eventually and come back to Earth. We'll talk a lot more about that a little later on in this broadcast, but we're watching that. And again, we're within about 30 minutes of that potential launch. So just kind of excited. Maybe this is, that's one of those nerdcast moments for us that we'll talk more about here in a couple of minutes. Sticking to what we do here on Mississippi Live Weather and showing you right now the latest here on our camera in Columbus. Did have a severe thunderstorm warning in the Columbus area earlier on. Did get at least one report of a tree down in the region. We'll talk to our meteorologist, Gabe Maynor, about that coming up in the next block, as we'll see that picture there. But as you can see on the latest on Mama Justice Doppler radar, the storms that were previously stronger there in and around Columbus, you can see those as they kind of move through. Briefly, severe thunderstorm warning. That storm's largely collapsed. A few other thunderstorms, as you can see, moving northward behind it. Let's come in closer at some of our heaviest down here close to Kosciuszko, just a little north of town there in Kosciuszko near Pierce's Chapel, where we have some of the heavier rainfall on that, lightning, some gusty winds as well, as that kind of moves in a northerly direction there. We'll look three-dimensionally on that storm, and you'll note that it does kind of extend up a little ways here, up to around 15,000 feet. Not as large as some of the hail producers last night, and not as strong as the one we had up there into Lowndes County a little bit earlier. Showing those, again, storms in and around Lowndes County continue to kind of weaken. Well, I say that. This is another batch here that we're kind of tracking, moving northward there. And then we have this heavier batch out there closer to Eupora as well. See if we can put that into motion, see if they'll give us the 1 hour loop on that. Looks like it's going to stay on the final scan there. Either way, this one kind of through the Walthall area, moving around Eupora toward our camera location in Mabin, which we'll try to check in, come up here in a couple of minutes as well. And we go kind of on the wider shot. You'll notice a few showers up here closer to Red Bay, Alabama, or at least that one there is, I believe, the storm that previously prompted that severe warning. It's gone through a collapsing phase, kind of redeveloping on the rain-cooled air, moving northward there, and a few other little showers out here between Pontotoc and Tupelo, close to Enville. But those all remain pretty weak on the latest scans here on Mama Justice Doppler radar. So wider shot continues to show that, again, these storms kind of moving generally northward. Any severe weather, we have a watch, a tornado watch for locations back out there on the plains. That's where the active pattern is much more active, not just for tonight, but really the next couple of days. We show you that a severe weather risk as far as that's concerned. Again, the risk for tonight, level 3 out of 5, back there into Oklahoma, where they do have that severe thunderstorm watch, tornado watch we were mentioning a moment ago. That risk shifts more up into the Midwest as we go toward tomorrow. And then by Friday, back out there on the plains. Now, as we look towards Saturday, no official severe weather risk in place yet. Not impossible that one maybe gets extended into our area, but we do not expect it to be a high-level risk, a more isolated chance as we get a little bit closer to that. So let's look here at Futurecast again. The general kind of wide shot here showing the most active weather back on the plains. We'll look at Storm Finder and our threats the next few days, kind of all aggregated, coming up in a couple minutes. But for us here across North Mississippi, most of the showers out of here over the course of the next few hours. There are those storms back into Oklahoma. You'd see 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning moving to western Arkansas, diminishing a lot there. No issues for here. So we are not dealing with anything heavy, overly strong, though we could have some popcorn showers and thunderstorms Thursday as well as Friday. We expect, again, most of the lift and everything it takes to produce severe weather, that largely stays up to the north of us. I see Mary over there in the comments on YouTube asking, it's going to be a wet weekend. It is, but the timing is important on your Easter plans. We're timing out when we're going to be the most wet, most likely to have those thunderstorms, and breaking down the very latest, looking at some of your pictures and talking Artemis as Mississippi Live Weather continues here from the Room to Room Weather Center in 60 seconds.
Feeling lucky? Shop the Lucky 7 sale at Room to Room and get an extra 7% off our lowest already marked down prices. Plus $77 art, $7.99 hot buys, and 12-month special financing. Find your lucky deal today at Room to Room Tupelo.
You looking for quality? Harvey's chefs start with the best cuts of certified Angus beef. Then we season them with a special blend of spices before they're grilled to perfection over a mesquite wood fire. And when paired with one of our signature sides, well, the only thing you need to bring is an appetite. Now that's quality, delivered to your table. Harvey's, a difference you can taste.
Feeling lucky? Shop the Lucky 7 sale at Room to Room and get an extra 7% off our lowest already marked down prices. Plus $77 art, $7.99 hot buys, and 12-month special financing. Find your lucky deal today at Room to Room Tupelo.
Right now, from the Room to Room Weather Center, here's Mississippi's Chief Meteorologist, Matt Lovehine.
On the launch pad and on the clock, you're looking live here at Artemis. First opportunity for the United States to head back around to the moon since, well, let's be honest, before any of us here on Mississippi Live Weather were born. Number of shots here coming to folks at NASA. We'll be showing you this as we go throughout. You can't see it behind that little logo there. It says T-minus 17 minutes. That'll be later on this broadcast when the broadcast window opens. The opportunity to see that there does as well. So we'll be watching that, of course, pretty closely as we're looking here at this camera in Mabin, watching some showers and storms out there, as well as we look kind of back out of our camera there in the Mabin area, showing again one of those heavier showers, 75 degrees current temperature. Those winds out of the south continue to pump up a little bit more moisture. We've had those scattered showers all around the Ackerman area, kind of popping up there. At least some raindrops showing up on the lens of the camera. We just need it so badly. Glad to see some there in the Ackerman area as well. Mama Justice Doppler radar again showing that cluster of storms, our heaviest batch stretching there from Kosciuszko and Eupora northward. We have a few other thunderstorms south of this that kind of feeding in, so we expect this kind of batch of storms to eventually track up here, Houston, and toward the Tupelo area as it continues to head back toward the north and east. So that's the direction this is kind of heading. We'll put this into motion, give you a loop here over the course of the last hour. You'll also note there is, if you look really closely, this little green line expanding through this from some of those storms. That I think will enhance this, where a few of these get a little bit stronger as that kind of tracks up there closer to the Houston and Tupelo area over the next little bit as well. So let's look three-dimensionally on this one a good way. Well, before we do that, let's check hail, just to make sure there's not something just jumps off the map as far as hail is concerned. I don't see anything at this point. And for comparison, you can see when that storm was there over top of the Columbus area, definitely did have more of those pink hail sort of returns, pink and purple returns on there as well. So that gives you an idea that all of our thunderstorms are considerably weaker than they were just a little bit ago. That's not to say they're not heavy and certainly not impactful. Down here around Kosciuszko, that's where we're going to start. We'll put this on a loop that goes over the last hour. The storm here on the north side of town just kind of strengthening a little bit more. No tornadoes out of this, but some gusty winds, a possibility with those rain showers all around the Kosciuszko area. Our camera there with the North Mississippi storm chasers coming in, as you can see there, with some of the dark clouds on the horizon. Traffic moving okay still at this point here, 73 degrees. Those winds gusty out of the south at 21, with wind gusts up in excess of 30 miles per hour there in the Kosciuszko area. As we slide northward to Winona, Someone was asking, could we get the thermometer and everything working on there? Looks like National Weather Service got that back up and going again. 84 right now in Winona, winds south and east at about 12 miles per hour. Back here to Mama Justice Doppler radar. So again, this is mainly east, as you can see there, of the Winona area, stretching up closer to Eupora. You can see that, again, that green line right there kind of translating through this. That's one of the signs, again, that there's going to be an extra little bit of lift with this. So as this moves toward and into the Eupora area, again, strong gusty winds up to around 30 miles per hour, maybe 40 miles per hour possible out of this. Let's check again. I'm going to bring it on the latest scans here. We'll go 3D on it just to double check the hail potential. And that might be increasing a little bit more. Let's slice into it. We'll do kind of what we call a cross section. I have my hail core there extending. You can see on the screen, this is about 30,000 feet there, 20,000 feet. So between 15 and 20,000 feet where the peak of that hail core is, I'd say more than anything at this point, it's probable that is dropping really, really heavy rainfall. But you can share your weather pictures with us if it is something different using the Mississippi Live Weather app, probably the easiest way to do that, free and available again for all of those different devices. I appreciate y'all. And again, I'm checking our chat here behind the scenes as well. Speaking of hail, we'll get back on the track of this in a moment. I do want to bring in our meteorologist, Gabe Maynor, who does have, again, one of the pictures of the hail that we have there, or at least not the hail, but some of the wind damage that we had there in the Columbus area earlier on, right?
Yeah, Matt, this was out of Columbus earlier this evening. That severe thunderstorm warning that was prompted about 3:30. That's where it did produce some of these strong gusty winds, knocking down one of those trees. Fortunately, also unfortunately, falling onto a garden bed. But as we saw yesterday with a tree falling into a home, we're grateful that this was not a residence. So that was some of the reports that are coming out of Columbus. Just a few trees down around the area as those gusty winds work their way on through. But Matt, now we're getting the beautiful side of the rainfall, and the rainbows really showing up in a plentiful amount. So definitely take those pictures over the damaged pictures any day, but I know you're tracking more of those storms moving through the North Mississippi area.
Yeah, and hoping that these don't get a little stronger. I appreciate that, Gabe. There are still some that we are monitoring at this time. Kind of bring it back in here. We show this cluster we were looking at a little heavy. They're moving toward Vardaman. Time to Vardaman, we're about 5:54. Let's go and fill in other locations there as well in the path of this. Again, non-severe thunderstorm, but we show Sapa at 5:15. Again, it's over top of Eupora right now, looking there toward Mathiston by about 5:25. Clarkston there at 5:33, Mabin at 5:35, Hohenlinden 5:38, toward the, again, Vardaman area at 5:54, Woodland 6:02, and getting closer to Anchor by around 6:10 as it moves toward the north and east. Clear that off, again, pan out to the east. Another one of these near Caledonia. This shows the red, but it doesn't show up on the lowest scan there. It tells me it's still the process of kind of either building or dropping the precipitation that it is going to do at this point. And so kind of looking at that there, let's give it a kind of a northern movement, and we'll double check our camera there in the Caledonia area as well. Yeah, see, that doesn't look terribly impressive. Let's see if it's, we've had some of these showers right around Caledonia. Does look a lot heavier with the naked eye. That's the beauty of these cameras with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers. Gabe, remind me, we need to get the logo on this one here. We'll write that down for after the show. But again, appreciate the North Mississippi Storm Chasers, our partners with all these cameras across the North Mississippi area. We'll pull that off there and go back to Mama Justice Doppler radar. The storms up here moving toward Red Bay, a little heavier as well. This one right on, again, the doorstep of Red Bay with probably some gusty wind, maybe even a couple of hailstones with that. Looking 3D, that does have more of the hail kind of up there than what's obvious just in 2D mode. So let's get a storm track again. It's over Red Bay right now, and we'll track that to where it's kind of heading up here toward Pleasant Site, Minot. Again, 20, 25 miles per hour. So obviously Red Bay now, Cherokee by about 6:12. And if we kind of fill in a few other locations between those two spots there, we show, again, Howelltown about 6:21, Burnout 5:21, Burnout by about 5:24, and getting there closer to, again, Chicksa there at about 6:10 or so. So we're about 10 minutes out from the Artemis launch, and we'll be, again, talking more about that here in a minute. Let's get over to our Storm Finder. Again, something you'll see only here on Mississippi Live as we're looking at, again, a pretty active pattern next couple of days, not necessarily for us, but around the region. Storm Finder allows us to see where storms are the strongest. Lightning, always kind of an indicator of that. Where you see the bright red, these kind of peaks there, shows where the lightning is the greatest. On the plains, certainly the case. This is Storm Finder, something you'll see only here on Mississippi Live. Now, notice by tomorrow, we do show some thunderstorms, but on the wide shot there is a difference in class between what we showed you a moment ago and what we have here. And again, we'll talk specific timing in a minute, but as you'll notice, this line of thunderstorms it depicts here could have some gusty wind, maybe some hailstones. This is more than what it's indicating for this evening, and we've had some damaging gusty wind, so it's an idea to keep in mind while we're not looking at what they're looking at on the plains. Still could be rough and gusty from time to time there as well. As we head here into Friday, notice how most of Friday, not much, maybe one or two pop-ups that could be a little heavier by Friday afternoon, but the purples and pinks indicating the confidence, not just in explicitly what's depicted by the model here, but the overall storm chance, those are increasing as we go into the pre-dawn hours of early Saturday morning and into your Saturday, as a line of thunderstorms will move in from the north and west to the south and east, and with it will be a potential for potentially some strong wind gusts, maybe some hailstones. Now, again, on Storm Finder, this is not terribly impressive. So again, we're not talking high-end severe weather event. Very clear looking at this, right? But we will have a line of storms, could have some gusty winds, could have some rotation potentially. We'll look at triple threat, something, again, you'll see only here on Mississippi Live coming up during our 6 o'clock broadcast, analyzing where some of those rotation tracks are the most likely, looking there toward the weekend. But big overall headline, morning through midday and afternoon on your Saturday, some strong thunderstorms a possibility. Most storms are not going to be high-end severe, but gusty winds, a little bit of rotation, maybe some hail, not an impossibility. Certainly stronger down towards South Mississippi with the system. And looking towards Sunday, we're pre-dawn here. We're into Sunday morning. Most of that, again, looking at our strike model east of us as we progress there. So Easter weekend forecast, let's talk about that. Good Friday, we're going to have some spotty showers and thunderstorms. Saturday, the most likely time period for us to see storms, most likely time period for a few of those to potentially be strong to severe. And then we're going 67 as we go toward your Sunday. A big drop in temperatures on the way as we head into your Easter weekend forecast. And school day forecast for tomorrow, though, it's another warm one. The borderline a little bit hot. And again, we'll kind of break down some timing on other things here, but our IMPC school day forecast shows no timing issues in the morning. We are dry at that point in time with those storm chances increasing as we go through the day. So here's Futurecast. Again, some spotty showers and thunderstorms. Next few hours here, most of those diminishing by around 9 p.m. tonight. We're probably at the peak of coverage now or in the last couple of hours. And then most overnight period, we are dry. We are partly cloudy. Those winds out of the south continue to become a little bit more breezy there as we continue to keep the clouds around. We're looking at temperatures in the mid-60s out there for the first part of tomorrow morning, around 67 for Greenwood, 67 degrees, Cleveland, Clarksdale, and Belzona. I'm going to pause here for a second and bring Gabe back in because I noticed that our time on our Artemis launch here looks like it has stalled maybe just a little bit there. Gabe, what's the news from behind the scenes? I showed T-minus 10 minutes.
Well, so there's some misalignment right now that they're assessing behind the scenes. Again, don't speak aeronautical that much, but they're basically going through the measurements here real quick, making sure that everything is lining up. They're talking about some discrepancies here and there in regards to the time, in regards to, I'm trying to read it behind the scenes as well. But
that's
don't really know the term.
We can check back in and talk more about that here in a
I'm
minute.
trying to listen to the terminology. They're discussing it right now about some of the discrepancies, so hopefully getting that fine-tuned. But I do want to say I have gotten word from the weather report down there, 90% good to go, and we're talking about the forecast. So at least the meteorologists doing their part in this mission.
Well, the Mother Nature doing her part, God doing his part. Ultimately, so we'll see T-minus 10 minutes on that. On that, so we'll see how that ends up playing out. So we'll bring it back in here and continue on the rest of the forecast as we're watching again that Artemis launch later on. Hey, Leo, Artemis is going to be launching to the moon here in just a little bit. So, okay. Well, we'll talk about that. I might have you come in and we could talk a little bit about that. You can tell me what you learned about it here in a minute. But let me look at this first. We'll see if the smartest Lopon comes out here and has something to say in a minute. But Tuesday, we are looking at mainly just cloud cover, 3, 4, 5 o'clock, perhaps a few isolated storms. This shows a lot less here on our HRRR model than what it had yesterday. for Thursday. So we need that rainfall. Majority activity still back to the west. Highs on your Thursday expected to be in the middle 80s, going around 86 degrees Houston, Starkville. You pour it around 85, 84 for Kosciuszko, 82 Clarksdale, and 81 degrees in Senatobia for those high temperatures tomorrow. By Thursday evening, again, a couple spotty showers and storms, not impossible. As you can see, a few of these trying to develop early Friday morning here on our HRRR. 2, 3, 4 o'clock rumbles, but no severe weather with this, as we're, again, mostly dry, but a few showers around to possibly slow down that morning commute early Friday. Mid-60s out there for low temperatures, around 66 Greenwood, 65 Grenada. We're looking about 65 Tupelo, Amory, and Houston by your Friday afternoon. As we look here into your Friday, looking at 9, 10 through the day there, we expect to have some spotty showers and storms popping up. Gabe, your yeses behind the scenes are really distracting. Is it something we need to talk about, or can I finish the forecast here real quick? Okay, we're good to go is what he's saying. Well, hopefully we'll get in. Gabe is so I can watch what everybody's doing here on Mississippi Live at the same time, and so occasionally my ADD kicks in when Gabe is like doing one of those things. So we'll hear from Gabe in a minute. Here's what we don't want to miss. The fact that while we're still mostly dry Friday afternoon, some spotty showers and thunderstorms, still a possibility to get popping up there. We show primarily in the Delta, kind of looking at this latest version of Futurecast here. And yes, the primary active weather and severe weather risk, as we talked about a moment ago, back out on the plains. So not impossible to get one of these briefly strong storms here in Mississippi the next 2 days, but much more likely to the west. High temperatures, middle to upper 80s out there, 87 degrees Grenada, 86 Kosciuszko, 87 for Eupora, and 86 Starkville, Columbus, and back toward Vernon, Alabama. So here is your high school game of the week presented by Casey Lott and Langston Lott. It's Walnut and Hamilton. You voted on it. We're going to be there, but it is tomorrow night because of Good Friday on Friday. We just decided to move it up a day just so that, we could allow as many folks as possible to be with their families when it, at least on our side here as well. And we know a lot of the games, aligned more with Thursday as a result. First pitch temperature around 82 or 76 by the fourth inning and 74 by the end of that one. Some spotty showers and thunderstorms. Maybe we'll get lucky down there in Monroe County and keep things from getting rough there. So as we look at the 7-day forecast, we're 84 degrees Thursday. For Friday, 80 degrees as we look towards Saturday. Rain coverage up around 70% for Saturday. That is the most likely time frame for us to see some strong to severe thunderstorms. 67 by your Easter Sunday. That's it, with rain chances first part of the day. Note what we've done here. We've trimmed back the rain chances just a little bit more. The timing has sped up just enough that hopefully we can keep it clear for those sunrise services or dry. I don't know that we're clear. I think we still have some clouds out there, but of course, talking more about that in the next couple of days. We're 68 there by Monday, 71 as we look toward Tuesday. And SEC baseball forecast, 87 Thursday for the game, Mississippi State versus Georgia there in Starkville. 86 for Friday and 84 for Saturday. Obviously, Saturday, the most likely of those 3 games to have some kind of adjustment to the time because of storm chances, and also obviously because that impacts rainfall and whether or not that game's able to go there as well. Looking for in Gainesville, Florida for our SEC baseball forecast presented by Carl Hogan Toyota. Thursday, we're 86 for that temperature, 87 for Friday, 89 degrees as we go towards Sunday. Most likely see some of those rain chances Friday, possibly. We'll see into the weekend there as well. Okay, Gabe is in it to win it back there. Gabe, what you got? Because you are dancing. Talk to me.
Because this is historic, Matt. Everything is good to go. Hearing the checks behind the scenes. Now, I have no idea what the acronyms mean, but I'm just hearing good to go, good to go, good to go. And so that launch, they're making the final preparations, but so far everything does check out, from the weather to those final checks to the seals. So Artemis II is going to be good to go here shortly. They're getting those last minute.
Let's be clear. I still show T-minus 10 minutes. I know there's
and that's
some
what I was going to get into.
Yeah.
So they're doing those last minute checks just to make sure, but the 2-hour time window is in place in which Artemis II could launch, and a new liftoff time will be set shortly. That was sent off by NASA, but they are good to go on all fronts as in regards to what I've listened to. They just gave the crew their speech about how this is going to be just historic for mankind, and cannot wait to see what this does, but a very historic day, and not just space history, but U.S. history, getting back on the moon.
Absolutely, and excited for that. Here's a shot again of the folks there at NASA. You're looking there at what Gabe had behind the scenes, and I'm going to pull up a different version here as we're watching kind of the main broadcast as well. So give me a moment to kind of bring that back in here and bring up the main broadcast that NASA is kind of putting on there. A lot of folks, again, all around the world watching. You know, as you mentioned a moment ago, Gabe, there, you know, the time, part of the reason it says, you know, time or T minus 10 minutes is because once they hit the exact point of this window where they feel like they've checked all the boxes they need to check, that's when they can launch it. And so, you know, the true countdown is that final 10 minutes there. So as of 5:19, they decided to extend that hold to give engineers time to, you know, work out all those final preparations on everything. I'm going to bring Gabe back in here. Again, I don't know, Gabe, that we're just going to kind of hold it here when they're in the 10-minute window. I think we might wait to kind of watch that 10-minute window start ticking down before we go, you know, full blown on this, but go for it.
They said it wouldn't be much time, much longer. So that's the one thing about it. It is a 2-hour window, so I don't know what not much longer means. Could be a half hour, it could be 10 minutes. But nonetheless, I would say once that counter gets started, you know, we can come back on here, but they are making those final preparations to make sure everything's secure and good to go.
Okay, so let's actually, I'm going to check our chat. I'll let you kind of check the chat, what people are saying behind.
Yeah, so looking at the chat, and they're talking about, yes, of course, all the different things you have to worry about when going to space. And so there's a large checklist that they're going through to make sure that everything is secure. I do want to note that engineers around the 5 o'clock hour were talking about a sensor on the launch abort system's attitude control monitor or motor controller battery. Like I said, a lot of acronyms. It showed a higher temperature than would be expected, but they are expecting it to be an instrumentation issue and will not affect today's launch. And again, everything is checking out. Everything is good to go. So I'm sorry, it might be the scientist inside of me or the scientist that is my wife that's been telling me about this and just the excitement behind it all. But I can't stop smiling just looking at what could potentially be happening here in just a short period of time. It's just, it's so historic, Matt. I've not been a part of one of these big launches before, aside from Artemis I, where it was an unmanned crew, but I think this is the first manned crew that I've been alive for being sent to space, or at least enough to be coherent, right? Well, there it is.
Well, you know, to the moon. Yeah. And so as you can see there, they have now, you know, started the 10-minute countdown. So we are now less than 10 minutes to the launch of Artemis there, and excited for that as well. Now, Gabe, I'm gonna pop up their audio behind the scenes. I don't know if people at home will be able to hear it. So Gabe, you tell me if you can hear it in your earpiece as I, you know, try to make sure that it is kind of up loud enough.
It's faint. Let me see if I can turn it up on my end.
No. If you turn it up on your end, then that's not the goal here as well. So give me just a second.
Well, while you're doing that, I can talk a little bit.
Tell me about this. Is that better?
I don't think I'm getting it.
Nope. Okay. It might be canceling that out. That's okay. So again, we are at that point here where they are again prepping for launch of Artemis, and we're obviously very excited for that. Current time is now 5:27 p.m. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon alongside our meteorologist Gabe Maynor. The funny thing about it being called a meteorologist is, you know, people always expect, well, do you study things from space? No, meteor is anything that falls from the sky, which is obviously what we hope happens more than 10 days from now with Artemis as the crew from it returns. Still, obviously, this is the beginning of what is expected to be kind of an exciting few days here as this launch sequence continues to kind of tick away. You can see above my head there, it's just kind of unfortunately perfectly obscured with the live, but we're at 7:48. You can also see on my shot there how they have taken the thing that stabilizes it, the crew walks out on, they have moved that away from the vehicle itself. So again, working our way closer to this. The crew, Commander Reed Wiseman, pilot Victor Glover, and mission specialist Christina Koch, and then Canadian Jeremy Hansen, all a part of this historic flight, expected to be about 9.5 days. And Gabe, it's crazy to think how fast this is going to be moving, right?
Right. I mean, this is just something you can't wrap your mind around. Annalise was actually having to explain it to me earlier, just how it was feasible. And I believe it's 7 miles a second. is what they're hoping to go. And I can tell you that I feel like I go fast on Highway 45 from time to time, not even a fraction of that. So,
No,
yeah.
actually, by definition, truly a fraction of that.
But we're talking about
But,
that big
the
compared
thing
to.
is that, the reentry speed, when it comes back in, think about trying to hit the brakes from 25,000 miles per hour, which is what, the atmosphere does to eventually slow them down as they come back. Of course, this is expected to be one of the most expensive launches in history, estimated at $4.1 billion to allow this 9.5 day mission. Expected to potentially go 252,000 miles from Earth, which would set a record on the longest distance a human being has gone from the Earth in history, in the history of mankind. So kind of crazy to think about this. Now, one thing that we do want to emphasize: this is not going to be a lunar landing situation. This is a situation where we are sending, basically, in a lot of ways, testing out the spacecraft to make sure that it can make it, so that at some point at a future date, this would be a lunar landing.
And the thing about this launch, too, is 10 days is the goal, of course. But if anything were to happen, it could return in, they said, anywhere from 3 days to 5 days to 7 days. We're just talking to the astronauts earlier and hearing their interviews. So, 10 days is optimal, and that would be a perfect mission. So we're hopeful that that's the case, because then Artemis II could potentially be that lunar landing here in about 2 years. They said is a realistic possibility, which absurd to think about, the fact that we're able to progress that far. But this launch, there's just a ton of firsts, like you're mentioning, with the distance being traveled away from Earth, the first of any of its kind. But we're also talking about the first woman to go to the moon. We're talking about the first black astronaut on a lunar mission. And we're also talking about the first non-American to go as far as the moon. So there's a ton of firsts that are happening within this. And that's what just makes it that much more historic. Nevertheless, it gets us back into space towards the moon and towards a potential landing here in a very short time frame.
And this has been a long time coming. We're T-minus 4.5, just a little more than 4.5 minutes, 4 minutes and 50 seconds there. This project, the SLS program that we're dealing with here, started back in 2011. So we've been working at this for 15 years, total development cost of $29 billion to get to this point. So there have been a number of scrubbed missions over the course of the last few years going up to this. So just excited that this day is here and that this launch will happen. I know a lot of folks are excited. This is the last moon mission by anybody since Apollo 17 back in 1972. That's more than 50 years ago, making it likely that most of the people watching this broadcast right now were not alive at that point in time, myself obviously included there. Well, I was actually incorrect on that. I believe the 93 billion is what the total program spend is so far on this.
Wow. Well, and it's all going to be worth it. I can assure you of that. Just the fact that we're able to explore it, and there's still so much to find outside of Earth's atmosphere. So excited to get to explore that a little bit more. They will also have a live feed throughout this 10-day stretch that you can go see the moon from space, see what the astronauts are seeing. And that adds another element to it. And I know my wife is going to have that for her students, and teachers out there teaching science recommend that them to do that as well. But the science behind the launch, I mean, we're talking about this main rocket lifting it all the way up into the Earth's atmosphere, but as it kind of goes around the Earth and stays within that outer atmosphere, it's going to be propelled by the ICPS. They said it earlier, and I'm not going to try to guess the acronym, but it's the ICPS up there on top that's going to actually propel that all the way up towards the moon. And that's what's going to be keeping the astronauts inside, because again, they're right there in that top part. And then, of course, going to go around the moon and almost have a slingshot back to Earth to kind of conserve some of that fuel. So the science behind this is just crazy to think about, and it definitely takes some
It's the same reason why when I'm trying to toss a stick into the woods, I swing around. You build up that momentum. We'll talk more about that as well, but it's just kind of cool, like all the different ways in which we, they literally use the Earth's gravity to slingshot it that direction. You're seeing there kind of behind me as they're showing the different shots. You have the two, and it's difficult to get perspective on just how large this is. It's just absolutely massive. As we go from the kind of the wide shot there for a moment as well, you'll note that again, this is the shot from where it is, about 2 minutes to launch here of the Artemis spacecraft, getting closer there. Hey, Gabe, by the way, let's do a push, letting people know behind the scenes, and we'll probably update the titles on the channel there after we do the push notification, letting people know we're about a minute from launch. I would say less than one minute to launch of the Artemis spacecraft, and the return of Americans and humans to the moon. So just very excited about how this is going to play out. Obviously, this is not something that happens very often, and whether just the nerds in us just excited to kind of see how this is going to end up playing out. Here's another shot here of this. Again, T-minus, we're 1 minute and 24 seconds from launch of the Artemis spacecraft. You're watching Mississippi Live here at 5:34 p.m. Again, this is going to be the first manned spacecraft to the moon since the 1970s, 53 years ago, the last U.S. moon mission. So excited to kind of to watch this. It's history in the making, and certainly something that's going to be pretty awesome. We're now just under 1 minute here. I'm going to go ahead and bring my children in to watch this real quick, if you would. The Artemis spacecraft is going to lift off in less than 1 minute. First time in 53 years. And you both can kind of stay there and you can kind of see across to that. Well, I might as well. Yeah, come on in here. So everyone at home can see you, by the way, as well, just so y'all are aware. So we'll probably try to stay at the corners of this if we can, so people can actually go ahead and watch it. So you stay over there at the side for a moment as we're T-minus 30 seconds to launch of the Artemis spacecraft. Yeah, there you go. Y'all are fine like that. And no, hey, Leo, come over here. No elbowing. Okay, so excited to kind of watch this. I noticed they took down that, and I will, again, bring Gabe up here behind the scenes as well as we await this. Now, there we go. There's ignition. I know, right?
Whoa.
Here we go. Penny, put that down now, please. Artemis has liftoff. The liftoff of the Artemis spacecraft. First time the United States is going to be making a trip to the moon since 1972. Again, this first phase here, a lot of things go pretty quickly in this sequence. Of course, we have liftoff as of now 5:36. We're only 12 minutes past the initial window here. As you can see some of the information there on the screen as the speed picks up on this. The next thing that we're looking for in this process as this lifts off into space and continues to pick up speed is the solid boosters will separate at 3,100 miles per hour. That's going to be in a little less than a minute and a half as it heads up. And so the solid rocket boosters are going to be those two smaller ones on the side. Those working with the liquid booster there in the middle as it sends it up quickly into the atmosphere. The separation will occur here in just about a minute. That separation is going to occur at about 30 miles of altitude. Imagine for a second here that you're traveling so fast, and Leo, we're both going to move this side. Well, okay, we're going to try to get out of the way of this. I'm going to actually make it to where we can take it full screen here for a second, where we're not on this for a moment. But as that continues to, go up there very, very quickly into the atmosphere, very difficult for cameras to stay on, right? Because it is burning through just an absolutely massive amount of fuel. Gabe, we'll go and you'll pop your audio up behind the scenes here as well, so we can continue to talk as this goes in. We should pretty soon here within the next few moments see separation of those solid boosters. You'll actually see what ends up being multiple smoke plumes at that point in time. Gabe, just a really cool sight to see, right?
Unreal that this is even possible. And the whole process of it, like we were talking about a moment ago, and like you've been talking about with the boosters dropping down, they're falling. Well, actually here in just a moment, I guess a few different perspectives showing that, but you'll see that happening here in just a moment. And of course, everyone has their eyes in the sky viewing this down there in Florida. Just again, a historical moment, and it's just exciting to see that first step, of course, happening there. Yes, separation, and then of course that main rocket going to work its way up there into the outer atmosphere. But yeah, Matt, crazy to see this happen. And there's the live view there on the side. That's pretty cool.
Absolutely, off the side of it as it continues to go up. Of course, the That's going to be intermittent. Those boosters will then, because of gravity, fall back to the surface of the Earth as this continues to go out into space. You're watching Mississippi Live Weather. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lopon alongside our meteorologist Gabe Maynard. We're sending it back to Gabe in the studio here for a moment as he has a shot of that small dot.
It's a small dot. I mean, you're looking at something that is already into the Earth's outer atmosphere, and so that's the view of it that we have right now, a small dot. And there's, I believe, the two boosters that are falling back down towards Earth, and so that's what's left of the Artemis II as it's traveling into the outer walls of the Earth's atmosphere and then into space.
Now we're starting to see a few other pieces here kind of breaking off again. There's going to be a lot of things that are supposed to happen with this. As you can see, this is the shot there of those boosters. And then there's other small pieces there. So the launch abort system is supposed to jettison about 3 minutes and 18 seconds into launch. That's probably what we just saw come off there as well. Next timeline thing that we're expecting is going to be at about 8 minutes in, about 4 minutes from now. That's going to be when the core stage engines turn off. And then we'll see a separation. So that's where we see the kind of the big unit come off it, for lack of a better way to put it, where you have the liquid fuel that's being used to propel it now at this point here with those main boosters. Those have been used from the onset. And you notice we're also having to look at this. They're trying to focus it in with infrared, because if you're using just the naked eye there, it's just the leftover kind of cloud. But you can see, again, the heat radiating off of that as they're tracking that, focusing on that up into space. So I mean, just really cool shot there as it continues to go up.
Yeah, and that ICPS, the interim cryogenic propulsion stage, is what I was trying to talk about earlier. That's that top part of the rocket. That is the next major milestone, as that will be the system that propels it into space and propels it up there towards the moon. So that's kind of what we're watching as each of these individual stages happen and those things break off. And breaking off is not a bad thing, so don't think anything bad is happening. That's, again, another stage in the process.
You know, what's funny about this, as it's, traveling so quickly, you might think here, 50 years after the last launch that you'd have a perfectly good signal coming back. With it moving so quickly through the atmosphere, we're talking close to about 10,000 miles per hour at this point here, that it's difficult to get a good lock on it, that's for sure, as it continues to head up higher and higher.
Yeah, and even the camera back there at the station that I was getting my view from has given up on getting a view. I believe it's just looking at the crowds out there. So everyone's still trying to get their last few moments of Artemis before it breaks the outer atmosphere and moves into space. But exciting. I'm watching the live feed right now from NASA, getting the latest on the stages. But just reading behind the scenes, it's so cool talking about how it didn't require those boosters like you were talking about a moment ago. Those were more of a protective structure that also shielded it from the high pressure portion of the launch. And so once it gets out of that stage, it's able to shed that and then, of course, enter the next stage. So that was successfully done, and we are entering those next couple of stages. So can't really see it happening.
For the fourth stage main engines to cut off and separate. That's kind of the final big part that's going to come off of this as well. We're about 2 minutes away from that occurring. It should occur at about 8 minutes and 6 seconds after launch, so a little bit less than 2 minutes. And this gives us a visual here that NASA has as well. So I'm going to kind of pull this back up here to kind of show this for a moment. So this is, and y'all will all get off camera here for a second so people can go ahead and read it. So again, that's a graphic more than what we're looking at there. So this is the actual image focused in on that, obviously way above the Earth's surface at this point here. That next separation happening at about 8 minutes and 6 seconds. So just a little bit more than a minute from now. And y'all can stay and watch that here in a minute. I'll just have to have you two off the camera so we can try to stay off, but continues to get higher and higher at this point here. Gabe, what is and I'll have you check the altitude at which that separation is supposed to occur. Since I'm off camera, I can't read my notes on this, but this is an actual shot there of the Artemis going through, again, the upper levels of the atmosphere. It doesn't head straight up at this point. It has to head at an angle as it works to continue to break away from the Earth. That's why it looks like it's somewhat flat there, is because it's continuing to go at an angle as well. We're about 30 seconds from that next separation point. I'll bring Gabe's audio up here. We'll kind of pull it up in a pair here as well. Gabe, how fast will it go with that? Be going? Well, first off, how high is it at that separation point? And about how fast?
So it's going to be 90 to 100 miles up there in the sky that we'll see that core stage separate. And that's going to be around the edge of space near the orbital velocity. And as you saw just a moment ago on that graphic, it was saying 11,000 miles an hour. So you can see how fast that is.
So we can see that. So we can see that separation live here. So I'll go and pull that back full for a moment, and I'll try to stay out of the way. You see that velocity. We're about 1,700 miles per hour, 91 miles up at this point here. Separation should be occurring as we speak of what is basically the big fuel tank and boosters that go along with that, and what essentially is the craft that will continue forward. There's that separation, Penny, Leo, if you want to see that, occurring there between essentially the big long part here, which is where most of this is fuel. If you've ever been to the Rocket Center there in Huntsville, you know what I'm talking about there. And then this is going to be the module, the main craft that will then make the trip around the Earth multiple times over the next couple of days, slingshot around, and then head for a trip there around the moon. So again, some shots here coming from NASA as well. You're watching Mississippi Live here. It is 5:44 as the main spacecraft has now departed, as we've had core stage separation occurring here. Still, the velocity continuing to pick up there. We're sitting at about 18,000 miles per hour, maintained about 18,000 miles per hour, about 119 miles from Earth at this point here, and still almost 250,000 miles for its trip to the moon. So it's going to deploy the solar array so that they can power everything they need to power there, maintain that power, but still awaiting that transition occurring as well. Separation has now occurred. You know, the different benchmarks from here get a little bit slower, longer and longer. Next benchmark is about 20 minutes in, so about 10 minutes from now. So I don't know that we're going to necessarily keep it going here with full narration. We'll want to check in what some folks are saying there, but that'd be about 5:55. At that point there, that's when the solar panels will deploy. They'll be moving about 17,000 miles per hour. So I was actually wrong a second ago there. Expected to actually lose a little bit of speed because we're not, again, there's still not a ton of atmosphere where they're at up there, but it's going to lose a little bit of velocity over the next 20 minutes. They'll deploy those what's the word I'm looking for? Those solar panels at about 20 minutes. So that'll be about a little less than 10 minutes from now.
Well, and the next big separation that we're looking at is the separation from the ICPS, and that's happening at about 1,100 to 1,300 miles, so somewhere in that range. And it's good to see that so far the rocket is doing everything as scheduled, because that core stage separated anywhere from 90 to 100 miles. So it's lining up really well, and those stages are happening as they should. And so, you know, 1,100 miles, like you said, here in the next 10 minutes or so. But I think it's just amazing the fact that we're 100 miles in, and it looks like they're already a speck in the sky, yet it still has 250,000 miles to go. Like, that's just an absurd, and the fact we can do it in 10 days also says a lot about space travel too.
Well, to be able to whip it around, pick up the speed using the Earth's gravity, pick up speed, whip around to the moon, go orbit around the moon, and come on back in that time. Like, it's a round trip in that time. So that's 175 miles. It really kind of clicks through pretty quickly there. So, anyway,
I was telling Annalise how, usually with space missions, I always feel like it's years and years that they're out and about, and then, they'll return in a set period of time. So hearing that this was 10 days was just a real big feat, I felt like. And the fact that it could mean potential landing on the moon. And then they also talked about another step into a mission to Mars. With people on the
moon is
spacecraft.
Obviously the first step, because in order to get to Mars, you're going to have some kind of encampment in all likelihood on the moon to be able to go that route. So some folks are asking, why do you go back to the moon? There's just a laundry list of things that we have to figure out for deeper space travel, which obviously has been one of the goals for a long period of time.
And we know about the moon, don't get me wrong, but we have explored so little of the moon. And they were talking about how excited they are to see parts of the moon that have never really been explored before. And it was cool listening to the excitement of the astronauts that are heading up there, because it seems like, you want to pick the right people for the job. I would say we definitely picked the right people for the job with how passionate they are. They're going to do it to the best of their ability, as has all the operations behind the scenes. And they're going to get the most out of it. So excited to see what they come back with, and excited to hear those interviews about their experience too.
Absolutely. You're watching Mississippi Live here. It is 5:48. Let's check kind of the chat where we've been talking with you, things you might be interested in. A lot of folks saying very cool. It is unbelievable to think that, they are already 220 miles from space. Well, Gabe and I were talking, Gavin, just a moment ago there, just the amount, the mileage, that they have crossed. 224 and still 241,000 miles to go. So it's along there. I see someone there mentioning 1972. Hey, listen, that was 53 years. That's incredible that, it has been that long, but for the United States, but really, really excited to kind of see where things go next and how this plays out over the next few days here. So, someone talking about flat earthers. I love y'all. We're not faking this video here. This is real stuff coming from the launch itself. The Earth is not flat; it is round. Chemtrails are not real; they're contrails caused by jets. We can get into all the tinfoil hat conspiracies you want, but they are up there, deep into space, and continue to climb very, very quickly away from us. You're watching Mississippi Live Weather. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon. I'm bringing our meteorologist Gabe Maynor back in here as well. Gabe, what else are you kind of learning from the discussion from the launch?
Oh, well, just that everything went okay, and that is probably the best news that we could have got out of this. All systems good to go. They talk around 5:43, of course 6:43 their time, being that they are on the East Coast. That main engine cutoff of the Space Launch System core stage was complete, and it was successfully separated from the ICPS on the Orion spacecraft. So that is the end of the first major propulsion phase of the Artemis II mission and the transition to the upper stage operations. And of course, that's going to be the separation of the ICPS later on around that 1,000-mile mark. And as Matt was talking about, they're flying miles and miles and miles a second. And that is, we're probably at 300 to 400 miles at this point. So watching that behind the scenes right here, watching the stream up there, watching the stream there at Matt's house too, all the different views in regards to what they're experiencing. So they said the next major milestone is going to be the deployment of the spacecraft's solar array wings. And that's scheduled to begin approximately 18 minutes after launch. So right now we are at 15 minutes post-launch. So here in the next 3 minutes, we'll see that next separation, or I guess the deployment of those solar array wings. And they'll provide continuous electrical power to the spacecraft throughout its entire journey. And it supports those life support systems, the avionics, communications, and onboard operations. And this deployment is a critical step in configuring Orion for the remainder of its time in Earth's orbit and for the outbound trip to the moon. Now, I know that was a lot of lingo and it might have gone right over the head. Basically, like Matt was saying, solar panels that power the entire trip around Earth's orbit and for the outbound trip to the moon. So like we're doing that slingshot effect. So as we slingshot off to the moon, it's going to sustain the aircraft throughout the entirety of its time around Earth before it goes off to the moon. So a real big essential part of this mission, and that's happening here in the next 2 minutes, hopefully. I don't know if we'll get a view on that because it is so high up in the sky, and I just don't know the camera equipment there at NASA. They've blown me away so far. So if we're still able to get a view on that, of course, we will have a view of that here in the next minute 40. But that's that next step of this mission. But so far, all things are good to go. Everything has been a success, and we are continuing to just be smiling ear to ear that this is all continuing to be possible. And I want to see right here. So around 5:38, like we talked about, the launch abort system separated earlier as well. So another successful part of this mission. And we are continuing to just see the success that has come out of Artemis II so far. And I will say the solar array wings, if we want those to go because that's going to allow that mission to the moon. But like we've talked about, if one of these things doesn't end up happening, that's where it would unfortunately have to come back. So this is a 10-day mission. If everything goes according to plan, Orion, is it Orion? I might be saying that wrong. I apologize. It's
yes,
Orion.
It's Orion.
Okay, yeah. See, I told you, I live with a scientist, my beautiful bride, and she was like, I wish you knew how to pronounce Orion. So correcting that now.
You're so pretty.
Yeah. I see, we're meteorologists, and I feel like I should know about space. Everyone asks me, it's like, well, what about this meteor? What about that meteor? I'm learning as we go.
Hey, so is everything smooth on that end? I think things have gotten real jumpy here because I pulled up the Artemis site behind me, and I think it is making my system not happy. Am I nice and smooth for you?
Yeah, it's coming across smooth.
Okay.
Of course,
Okay.
folks in the chat, let us know if you see anything differently, but on my end, it does look good to go.
Okay, we'll go back there. There's the live chat that NASA has going on as they're kind of talking through this as well. Current time 5:53. Gabe, I'm gonna on your monitor behind. I'll give you a chance to kind of pull up a few other things. Get ready because I got to get a 6 o'clock show ready to go here as well. So we'll probably launch right into a regular 6 o'clock show here in a moment. All right.
Okay.
So I'm gonna let you pull up maybe the main live feed there here in just a moment, so we can kind of pull that up as well. So I'll bring it back over here for a moment. You're watching Mississippi Live here at now 16 minutes past the launch of the Artemis spacecraft into orbit. Eventually, it's not a continuous orbit. We launch it. It'll slingshot around a couple of times and then go deeper into space. I'm gonna see if I can find the incredible map that I had earlier on today on this. It's incredible to think of the way in which it's going to go around there a few times on its way up and out into space. So Gabe, as soon as you have that up, I'm going to send it your direction back there as well.
Okay, and so the key part to right now is we have officially entered that next stage, actually a little bit after that now. So the solar array wings are looking to open because we are 18 minutes post-launch, and this is around that time frame that we'd expect it to be happening. And again, that's what's going to power the spacecraft around Earth's orbit and propel that to the moon. So that's why this next phase is very important, because those solar panels are going to work to give the aircraft its energy, or the spacecraft, I should say, because we're out of air, right? So there's a look at it currently, 17,170 miles an hour. 466 miles there from Earth, and we are only 239,000 miles away from the moon. So things are progressing as they should be. Just looking to see those wings open up, and I'm looking to see if they give any confirmation of that there at the bottom. And of course, let me refresh the NASA feed in regards to some of their reports to make sure that I'm not missing anything, but that should be happening here as soon as possible. I'm gonna cut off closed captioning for you. There we go. Okay, so that should be a little less words up there. So there you're getting a look at the spacecraft, and again, this is going to be the the ICPS. That's what you're looking at right there along that leading edge, and that engine right there is what's propelling it around the orbit of the Earth and giving it that last little boost. But we're looking to shed that here in the next 500 miles. So it's going to open up those solar panels, those solar array panels, and then of course, we'll swap over to the power coming from there rather than this engine back behind it. But that's where the ICPS will drop here in the next 500 miles, which at the rate we're going, it's not going to be much longer. And we are 20 minutes post-launch, and it does look like the solar array wings are open. That's a great sign. And I'm going to say this so wrong, the perigee raise maneuver burn is what we're going through right now, the next stage of the mission. And that is, again, going to be that next phase of what has been a successful mission so far. Good to see those array wings have opened up, and that is going to supply the energy as we go around the Earth and give that last propulsion to the moon. So the engine will be able to be shed here in the next 470 miles, so probably here in the next 5 to 10 minutes, and that's going to be where we cut that off and just go strictly off of the energy there provided by the solar array wings. So I'm hoping they give me an update on that for some of the sciencey lingo there behind the scenes. But this is going to be a part of that 10-day mission as it continues to work its way out. And
so the perigee has to do with its position around the Earth, right? Like so
yeah.
You have the perigee and the apogee, and so anyway, so that's that part of it there.
Well, I appreciate you cutting in, because again, I'm kind of learning as we go, because
we should have had Miss Maynor on.
I could FaceTime her right now. I think she's picking up dinner as we speak, so I could bring her in here in a bit.
Yeah, well, you could have the smart one of us talking about that as well. Hey, what I think we're going to do is here in just a moment, we're going to kind of re-rack things. We'll bring you into our Mississippi Live weather at 6 o'clock here for a moment. But you've been watching our coverage of the Artemis launch Again, things move a lot slower once you get through the main portion of the atmosphere. Next big, I guess, headline we're looking for, time frame we're looking for, would be about 49 minutes into launch. We have just now had those solar panels deploy within the last few moments. Those should have happened. That should be around 1,200 nautical miles away, in theory, is where we kind of should be at this point here. And again, 49 minutes in, where we're going to see that perigee raise burn that raises the low point of the orbit to a safe altitude. And so they'll apply 24,000 pounds of thrust to accelerate the capsule to 24,500 miles per hour. Anyway, a lot of different components that happen after that as well. But we're going to go ahead and start our 6 o'clock broadcast. Mississippi Live Weather at 6 starts right now. Hey, and Gabe, we'll do a push alert for that as well.
As a bankruptcy firm, Mitchell, Cunningham, and Bowling realizes many people are worried about their finances. We're here to guide you through the next steps to restart your life with easy video appointments. New clients don't have to leave home to get information about becoming debt-free. Also, convenient in-office appointments are available at the low cost of $340 upfront for a Chapter 13. You can be on your way to being debt-free. Contact Mitchell, Cunningham, and Bowling today or visit our website at mcdebtfree.com. We are here to help you. Mississippi's trusted weather experts. This is Mississippi Live Weather at 6.
Welcome into Mississippi Live Weather at 6. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lopon alongside our meteorologist Gabe Maynor. Of course, a historic evening underway right now that we've been talking about here in the Room to Room Weather Center. And, looks like Gabe, like we were out of there. So let's try that again. And pop that up. Again, we're talking about the Artemis spacecraft there in orbit. Saw somebody in the chat behind the screens asking, how are they getting shots of this? This is computer generated at this point here. They were very effective at being able to send back, again, the video when it's closer. That video has kind of been in and out because of how fast and how high the position on the Earth it is on the ability to get that back. But still traveling about 16,000 miles per hour within about the next 40. No, let's see here. Let's do some math. About within the next 30 minutes, should be getting to a point there where they once again activate the thrust from that booster at the back end there to increase the speed up to 24,750 pounds of burst to go to 24,000 miles per hour. Man, I apologize. We're getting close on some of this stuff. Either way, this is the first time since 1974 the United States has sent someone to the moon, and it's possible this is at almost 250,000 miles away from Earth. Will be the farthest human beings have gone from Earth over the course of human history. So an incredible experience, and starting that tonight. As we look at our first 12 on our forecast here, we're 79 degrees at 7, 71 as we look toward 10, 67 as we look toward 1 o'clock in the morning, and 64, somewhere in the lower to middle 60s for the first part of early morning on your Thursday there. Rain and storm chances next couple of hours. Still one of the headlines that we're tracking here on Mama Justice Doppler radar at this time. We'll go back over to kind of the high resolution mode where you saw some of the storms that we had a little heavier earlier. A couple of these up here close to Newsom Springs there, but that's all north of Dempsey, north of our area. As you go on kind of the wider shot, the only storms that are somewhat heavier are those that are down there in southern Chickasaw County that move there through locations near Mabin, up near Woodland as well. This is kind of in a zone here where we have just a little boundary that's going to try to continue to follow northward there. So Thelma, Parkersburg, Houston, Troy, maybe even Pontotoc in the path as that continues to try to expand northward. Now, this is below severe limits where you see more of the red there on this expanding northward. I think this is largely exhaled out some of its rain cooled air. That's what I think this leading green line is. So let's kind of talk through a bunch of different things I just mentioned. Let's talk through it here for you as well. Let's go back to 2D mode near Woodland and moving toward Houston, one of the most, the heaviest parts of this. But if I kind of stop it on the final frame here, let's go now. Let's telestrate on this. If you notice, there's kind of this green line right about there. Now I'll put that back in motion for you for a moment. That is that rain cooled air exhaling out of this to a certain extent. Sometimes we'll call it outflow dominant. That is a sign that it's going to be more difficult for this to maintain its strength as it goes northward there, as it's gotten a little bit separated. But I think, again, we're moving toward Houston, Parkersburg, and Holka there if it continues to move toward the north and east. Let's get a speed on that. Let's double check the speed that it has been moving right now. So we find it right about there, and over the last hour, it moved about 25 miles over the last hour. So we'll continue tracking that north for about 25 miles per hour. All our other thunderstorms are relatively weak, all things considered. So let's see there. We'll go about 25 miles per hour, and we'll go ahead and add a few other folks to that track as well. So we'll take it, we'll put everybody on. Now expand that for about 60 miles, we'll say there. So again, this is going to be pretty close to the Houston area within about the next 20 minutes or so. We're looking at Tabbville by about 6:05. Houston doesn't directly show up on here. It'd be before that Thelma time there, so somewhere around 2:20 or so. 6:20 there, close to the Houston area. Holka about 6:37. Algoma at 7 o'clock. I'm on this wide shot here. I think I might have been just a little bit too far west. Let's double check that for. Yeah, I need a wider track on that. But you get some times there, an example on some of those times as it moves northward. Go and track that batch there. Give about 25 miles per hour, and that should get me a time there for Houston, about 6:22. So we guesstimated that out about right. Outside of that storm there, as we come back to the regular rainfall mode on Mama Justice Doppler radar, and we actually check out the rainfall accumulations, you'll note we've had some decent amounts out of some of our thunderstorms today. Where you see the greens there on our map, that's typically above about a ½ inch of rainfall, with some estimations, especially on that heavier thunderstorm there, close to maybe, if I can get it to kind of pop on there, maybe an inch up there north of Eupora. So some decent rainfall. Not a lot of folks probably going to be complaining about that. But from here, we do expect we'll probably continue to have some storm chances next few days, because the pattern is much more active back to the west. As you can see where we have these blue areas here, these are tornado watches for locations back out on the plains where it's possible, again, tornadoes could occur for tonight. And with this overall storm system, kind of the first wave that we have here, powered by a second wave, I think the overall pattern is going to keep the strongest winds aloft to the north. That's why the peak severe weather threat over the course of this next few days will stay to the north of us as well. We'll dig more into triple threat and some of the other things that go into play on that forecast here in a couple minutes. But for us this evening, as I go ahead and restart that there for a second, let's bring it right back to there. So we'll continue to show, again, a few isolated showers trying to pop up next couple of hours here. But by 10 p.m., most of those are out of here. We'll walk a little more in depth in that here in just a moment, but not expecting a whole lot that's overly strong. Again, those showers and thunderstorms strongest back out to the west. Clouds continuing to increase. Most of the overnight period dry, with conditions remaining partly cloudy and low 60s out there to begin early morning Thursday. So over the next 24 hours, we're 64 degrees to start the day on your Thursday. We're 68 by 9 a.m., 80 degrees by noontime. Rain chances, yes, we'll have some spotty ones midday, also into the afternoon as well. I'd keep at least the rogue chance there to maybe see a pop-up 3, 4, 5, 6 o'clock for tomorrow. But the chances not as good as they will be by this weekend. And in particular, Saturday's the day we're highlighting with a greater chance to see thunderstorms, maybe even some strong to severe thunderstorms. We're breaking down that threat as Mississippi Live Weather continues here in 60 seconds. We'll give you kind of an update on how things look with Artemis at this moment here. And again, looking at that again, waiting for the next stage of this as the solar array has opened 15,000 miles per hour. Still about 15 minutes, 20 minutes away from the next big milestone there, that perigee rays burn. We'll have more on this and everything related to your forecast over the next couple days, including our triple threat, looking at severe weather chances for the weekend. Where's rotation? Where's hail? Where's wind most likely? We'll have that coming up after this.
After a storm, the damage is not always obvious. And if it's not documented correctly, it can cost you. With a decade of experience, we know exactly what to look for. We handle the inspection, claim support, and the roof. Storm season is coming. Make sure you have absolute restoration on your side.
But we can see the lowering. We're going to have a good shot at that as it approaches the Ryanzi area. Tornado warning now issued. We'll do a push alert behind the scenes for folks here up here in Alcorn County. Rotation on this thunderstorm increasing to the point back into Tippah County as well, where the National Weather Service has issued a tornado warning for your locations. This portion of Mississippi Live Weather is presented by Little's Jewelers.
Right now, from the Room to Room Weather Center, here's Mississippi's Chief Meteorologist, Matt Lobhon.
Welcome back to Mississippi Live Weather at 6. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon alongside our meteorologist Gabe Maynor. Wide shot here. You can tell by the lightning strikes. Things on the upswings nationally as far as severe weather is concerned, but it's out on the plains. It's up toward the Midwest. That's where that is most likely, and not here across the southeast. Now, not impossible to get a rogue strong wind gust or hailstone, and it's not just tonight. As you can see, mostly in good shape as far as tonight's concerned. For us, tomorrow, another severe weather threat up there closer to Illinois, actually toward the Chicago area. By Friday, that threat gets a little bit closer, still back out into Arkansas, Kansas. Confidence not high in a severe weather threat for this weekend at this point. Storm Prediction Center not putting out a day 4 risk. That's not shocking because in my mind, we're probably looking at the lower end of the spectrum here. So probably somewhere maybe a level 1 or at most a level 2 risk for severe weather. Talking about the number of reports, not expected to have a ton of reports of severe weather. One of those things that we will watch, of course, the next couple of days. On Mama Justice Doppler radar and its latest scans, again, we did briefly have a severe thunderstorm warning for Lowndes County earlier on. We've had some pop-up showers and thunderstorms and still tracking a few of those at this time. We're watching some of these back out here toward the Anchor community up closer to Houston. A number of cameras we can reference here with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers, including our camera there in Mabin, just off the screen there, looking in a direction where it shows up mostly clear at this point and time. We'll see if we can swing that camera in Mabin around. If I can, there we are. Mabin, and we're going to look back toward the north point, and that'll start moving here in just a moment for us. So as we pan that, there's that heavier rain shower, one of those storms. Now we are going to look more toward the tower here in a moment, and I'm going to have to actually adjust the camera up a little bit more. Give me a second to get that. But now we're looking more kind of north. This is actually a little bit more northeast, I believe, there in Mabin. Again, at some of the dark clouds and the showers. Again, this does not look overly strong, so no shock that there is no warnings or anything like that. 73 degrees in Mabin. Looking back into, again, some lightning with that. So power disruption is not impossible. Gabe will talk more about that here in a minute as we'll kind of check in on some of those. As we bring it back over to our camera in the West Point area, again, looking back into and through some of those showers, well back to the west. Again, similar storm, just different angle there of the rainfall. This does not look particularly strong up here. We don't have good sharp structure, which is something we look for when it's going to be severe. And luckily, that does not look like it is severe at this time. Coming in 74 degrees there in the West Point area. Before I go any further, something I want to mention, we'll talk a lot more about this coming forward here. For those folks that, do want to watch us on traditional TV, starting today, it's possible for you to see us on Max South. So for those folks that have Max South cable, we should have placement on there. Today's the day that's supposed to kick over. So we'll be excited to be able to provide you 24/7 weather coverage there on Max South Cable, Max South Broadband as well. So another partner with us on Mississippi Live Weather for, those times, of course, when you do get those disruptions or for whatever reason, if you have Max South Cable, you're able to continue to watching us on there as well. So an exciting step forward for us here on Mississippi Live to be able to broadcast on a traditional service like that. And they're going to be some great partners with us going forward. Really excited to be able to work with them. So our partners on Max South now, kind of a cool situation here. Didn't think that'd be something we would be able to pull off, but they were very interested for quite a while in finding a way to make this work. And so you'll be able to find us on that platform, as well as every place where you've been able to watch us to this point here. Watching a few showers and thunderstorms again toward Houston. As we mentioned, these are kind of on the downswing and pretty much right there on the doorstep of Houston, as storms have actually kind of developed ahead as it's broken out. So moderate to heavy rainfall, the main impact with this. And again, double checking the hail just for folks there concerned with that. No hail potential kind of based out of this no hail swaths or anything like that being detected. Now, will that be the case going forward? Now, tonight, yes. But as our forecast for Easter weekend looks ahead, rain chances are definitely in it as well. Good Friday, we're looking at 84 degrees for that high temperature, 80 by your Saturday, and then by Easter Sunday, 67. So big drop off there. I mean, listen, it's not cold. It's just not going to be the same for those folks, those ladies wanting to wear the Easter dresses. It'll be a little bit breezy and obviously a lot cooler than the last couple days have been, and the next couple days will be looking toward Easter Sunday. So for planning, keep that in mind. We have watched some of the rain chances, though. They have got out of here a little more quickly Saturday night, early Sunday. So we are hopeful that we are dry for those sunrise services early Sunday morning. But as far as storms go, let's talk about triple threat, something you'll see only here on Mississippi Live. Triple threat allows us to look at rotation, wind damage potential, and large hail damage potential using our strike model, something you can't find anywhere else. This is triple threat. And where you see the red stripes, the blue, those are spots where, again, some damaging wind and potential for rotation from tornadoes back out on the plains today. No shock there, as we showed you. That's the bullseye for severe weather chances. As those storms move toward us through midday tomorrow, you'll notice that we don't really have much here. Nothing of real significance, though some gusty winds still possible just in the clear air. And maybe a couple of these thunderstorms tomorrow trying to kick out a few stronger wind gusts out toward Chula, locations back there in Holmes and Carroll counties. Not impossible to have that. Not really seeing much, though, depicted for tomorrow's storms. As we go into Friday, again, not much out there as well, with a much more active pattern back to the north and west. Friday through midday, Friday through afternoon. Not really seeing much here. Well, we do have a couple of isolated showers. It does try to show popping up there. We're not getting anything rotation-wise or severe out of it. But as you'll notice here in the Saturday, that's when things start to change. The purples you see here, that's more hail reports back out into Arkansas. And notice as this progresses into our area, less of those, even in that time period between midnight, early Saturday morning and Saturday 6 a.m., the number of those little purple splotches becomes more limited. And as this line moves through midday there on Saturday into Saturday afternoon, less in the way of rotation tracks versus what we were looking at on triple threat yesterday. We expect, again, this to consolidate in as we get closer. The closer we get in, the better data that we have here. Putting that into our triple threat, a few areas still with some rotation depicted there, possibly in your Saturday, but a lesser number of those. No hail based on what we're looking at here, and really limited damaging wind potential. So this is not a significant severe weather threat for Saturday, but it's not an impossibility that maybe we could see that. And then by Sunday, well, the only thing we're depicting there is that change of wind back to the north as we see this system slide on out of here. So let's walk through Futurecast. Again, tonight, some pop-up showers still possible. Next couple of hours, the isolated storms we're looking at, those are the ones where we'll still see the potential to maybe have a couple of rumbles. And then as we head towards, say, midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, relatively clear, relatively dry, not much to talk about there with widespread cloud cover and dry conditions to start Thursday. So we're 66 there in Senatobia, 67 Clarksdale for low temperatures early Thursday. Normal's 48, so way above that. That's been kind of a broken record of late. Not actually breaking record highs, but just, man, does that even translate? If I'm saying 53 years ago is the last time we went to the moon back in the mid-70s, and there are folks watching us that were never around then, there are folks watching us that have never seen a record that skips. Anyway, the idea being the record-on-record player, man, maybe my references are starting to get old. Oh well, you get the point. No record tomorrow, and it's kind of a repeat of today for those low temperatures. Pickup temperature on our IMPC school bus forecast 63. We're 84 degrees by drop-off. A few spotty showers. Most of us are probably going to end up being dry. Futurecast here, again, showing with the widespread clouds, all the rain chances primarily still back to the west of us. This is, again, is where we'll have better chances for storms shifting up toward the Midwest, where they're more likely to be severe. We're still bringing in a little more moisture out of the Gulf of Mexico, but the strongest winds aloft solidly north of us. That's why it's not impossible if we bring it a little closer to see a rogue little pop-up. But most of us are probably not going to see much. So that rain chance non-zero, and we're crossing our fingers. That means good things for our game of the week tomorrow. High temperatures, we're looking at somewhere in the middle 80s out there for highs. Record for this time of year, 87. We're only 2 away from that in Tupelo, 86 degrees there in Amory, 85 Eupora. I don't go anybody quite up to that record high, but obviously we are pretty close to crossing that threshold. So expecting it to be a day that is relatively warm, that's for sure. Bring it back over here for a moment. And so as you can see on our high school baseball forecast, expecting that to be 82 for the first pitch of that game there. We're 76 by the 4th inning. Appreciate Casey Lott and the folks at Langston a lot for sponsoring our high school game of the week. We're going to be out there. I say it actually might be me now that I'm saying it. I was thinking it might be Gabe, but the fact it's clear enough, I think I might actually be able to make it out tomorrow. Hey. Gabe's excited about that as well. Gabe will be talking about some power outages here in a minute where we have those. I see that he has those kind of pulled up behind the scenes. Again, appreciate Casey Lott and Langston Lott for sponsoring our game of the week. Get that voting going on the most valuable non-player as well as the fan section of the week. Wide shot shows, again, some storms north. Some right there, pop-up showers, not impossible tomorrow late evening and in the early Friday morning. So again, not an impossibility we have something tomorrow, but more likely it's tomorrow night before we start to get a few things going. And you'll notice most of us probably not seeing a whole lot there 5, 6, 7 o'clock early Friday morning. So Friday we'll start off around 65 Grenada, 64 degrees Eupora, 65 in Starkville. And again, way above what we typically expect for this time of year. But again, another fairly mild, warm start to the day. So spotty showers again Friday at midday, not much. Most of these starting to get a little heavier here by around noontime. Again, Good Friday, expecting to possibly have some rumbles, maybe a few stronger storms. We changed models there from our HRRR to our strike model. Sometimes, the difference between those two, that's the reason kind of shifted. I'm looking at that HRRR. I think it's still reasonable. I'm going to go ahead and reset this here for a moment to show you this. But I think it's not unreasonable that we get a few of these storms to be a little heavier than maybe what the strike indicates. So this right here, we're still on this model. And see how we have a couple of these that are a little bit stronger, right? We kick it over and those disappear. That's because we kind of run out of data on that HRRR model. Gabe will have a better look at that deeper in looking at the 0Z projections tonight on Mississippi Live Weather at 10. But even our strike model, still 1 or 2 little pop-ups that are a little bit heavier there by Friday afternoon. Middle to maybe upper 80s for highs Friday. And again, 87 is where we are for records. And we're not going to be quite there, but we're obviously pretty close. Here's a look at that 7-day forecast. Your SEC baseball forecast will be coming up here after the break. But we're mid 80s there for Friday, lower 80s by Saturday, 60s as we go towards Sunday into Monday. So yes, Easter Sunday at this point, expecting it to hopefully be pretty dry. We're going to look at our high resolution projections, time out when exactly that's going to go for your Easter forecast, and check back in on Artemis as Mississippi Live Weather continues here in about 60 seconds. But big headline, near record warmth the next couple of days, peak rain chances on Saturday. We'll be right back.
We're all just trying to keep things running for those who rely on us. That's why we don't have time to be sick with the flu.
We don't have time for delays.
Ready! We don't have time for spills.
Next.
We don't have time for setbacks. Let's be real.
Getting the flu shot
helps you fight the flu.
Get a flu shot for yourself and those around you too.
For decades, I've taught you everything I know. But only you can prevent wildfires.
People tell me how lucky my daughter is to have been adopted. But really, we're the lucky ones. Learn more at adoptuskids.org.
Okay, visible satellite here across the region, showing up with, again, the clouds that we have had. I want to go down to check and see if we can see that launch on satellite. Supposedly here, if I can catch it on the right frame, it's possible we can And that might be difficult to see on that 1 hour loop. We'll have to work on that. You're watching Mississippi Live Weather. I'll check on that when we're talking to Gabe about some of those pictures and things coming in here. In particular, he's looking at those, what is it? Gabe, I talked for too long here. Those are power outages. Man.
Power outages, yes, there it is.
Go,
you can
Gabe
only talk
Maynard.
about rockets so much before we have to actually bring it back down here to Earth. And as we look at Earth, of course, down there in Kosciuszko, that's where we're tracking over 1,000 outages. But if you look, it's all pinpointed to one spot. What exactly took place in Kosciuszko? Well, reports of a tree that fell down onto their equipment. Crews are on the way to restore power as soon as possible. That was around 4:47 this evening, hoping to restore that here shortly. But of course, that's one of the outages that we're experiencing here in North Mississippi, and a few sporadic outages due to maybe some of those lightning strikes, but not really seeing much in regards to significant damage. As we continue to look here behind the scenes, we do get some pictures that are being submitted from the Starkville area. Actually have a good bit of those rainbows. Some of the ones you saw earlier this evening was actually out of Starkville as well. But we're getting another rainbow down in Starkville once again as those showers work their way just west of Oktibbeha County, but giving us a spectacular view down there as well. So jealous of our meteorologist, Caleb Edelblut, getting a sight that down there with not just one, but two rainbows, a double rainbow. I guess that's even more lucky. But Matt, that's one of the spectacles in the sky. Of course, you have the other one there with Artemis.
I found it. I found the satellite.
Show it off. Show it off.
Okay, hold on. Let's go ahead and see if I can pull this back up here. So this is something that I'll bet you'll only see here on Mississippi Live. Let's look at how satellite and whoop, see that right there? That is it. That is Artemis taking off from Cape Canaveral. Watch how you'll see this cloud just whoop, whoop. Let's see how fast that happens. So this is 1 minute data. So that shows you how far over that 2 minute stretch this moved, right? Over that 2 minute stretch, it moved 23 miles. Going back to, again, that 5:37, and again, that correlates back perfectly to its launch right there. Boop, boop. Isn't that crazy? So there you go. At least as far as the crow flies, 23 miles. I try to stay out of that. So kind of a neat shot that we're able to see that. And those folks heading up into space at this point here. So really cool stuff. Okay, so with that in mind, let's bring it back here again to ground level. Let's talk about your Easter weekend. And well, this is going to start all the way over there. So let's bring it back over to home for a second. So front coming through Saturday evening, right? Severe weather chances, maybe, probably not a ton of those, but we're looking for Easter Sunday in particular. Notice how showers mainly out of here 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. I would say, again, a non-zero chance to have a few sprinkles around early Sunday. Not impossible. It slows down a little bit. The trend has been fast enough that we're hopefully dry on Sunday. Last couple of days, what we're looking at with this sunrise, we're hoping we get all the way to mostly clear out here, Water Valley, Oxford, Bruce, Houston. Still probably a little more cloud cover than what this is indicating near the Alabama state line. So I know some folks, want to get out for those sunrise services. Just understand that it's possible that we could still have some clouds lingering behind what this has here. But then as high pressure comes in behind this system, it's going to be a lot cooler going through your Sunday and into the first part of next week. SEC baseball forecast. Thursday game for Ole Miss versus Florida there in Gainesville. We're looking at 86 degrees that first pitch temperature, 87 for Friday, 89 for Saturday. Rain chances probably most likely on Friday at this point, but I think there could still be, it's Florida, chances for rainfall that extend beyond that potentially into Saturday as well. Back up here, hold on, I got one of them. Oh, I split them up. Hold on, let's do the Mississippi State forecast now. There we go. Showing that one 87 degrees for first pitch there versus Georgia. Of course, we're back home here in Starkville, and as you'll note, those rain chances better than Florida, as we'll have some spotty ones again Thursday as well as Friday. Best chances probably Saturday. Expect that game time on Saturday potentially to shift a little bit because of that. It's the better of the 3 rain chances. Hopefully we get through the next 2 days without there being any significant issues related to those. I'm going to bring Gabe back in here for a moment. I got to know, who do you have there with you in the studio? Because you're cutting up a little bit.
Oh, my best friend, my wife, she's here in the studio bringing me dinner, and she was just actually telling me some facts about Artemis. And a cool one that she told me was, you're talking about...
You know what I'm going to say? She needs to...
Well, do you want to make an appearance? She said no.
That was a hard no.
Yeah, but I will tell you what she told me.
Is she willing to put on the mic?
Do you want to put on a
The
mic?
other mic over there. Just
and
put
talk
on the
over
mic.
it? You can talk. You can talk.
I don't know how to prove my facts, Lord.
No, just say it, because I'm going to say it either way. Say hello.
Hello.
There she is.
So Mrs. Maynor, I get that. Okay. So
Yeah,
so she can't hear me. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, so say your fact about in regards to the expenses for Artemis.
Well, I don't know the exact expenses, but I have heard frequently today that however much is spent in the budget from NASA on Artemis II, we spend more yearly just on Halloween.
There you go.
I believe that.
She also was telling me that it is Orion, and I was saying Orion for way too long. So she was also the reason why I corrected that. So she knows more about it than me, and so whatever facts she tells me between shows, I will be sure to share those with you guys coming up at 10.
Okay. Yeah.
And she brought me some supplies.
Oh, okay. Rocket science. Hold on. Let's get that full screen for everyone at home to see.
Yep. So I will be fully prepared at 10 o'clock tonight to talk the latest on Artemis. Don't worry about that. Rocket science for babies coming your way. Not a sponsor, but definitely a helpful tool.
Rocket science for babies. That is something you'll see only here on Mississippi Live. Hey, pick up the apps, free and available for Android, iOS. We mentioned this a minute ago. Newly minted, we are on Max South. That's so cool to me. So you can find us just flipping through the channels there as well. So excited to be partnering with them to be able to make Mississippi Live more available to folks out there. So you can watch us on our live stream. I'm looking at what we're sending them right behind the scenes right now. So exciting. So you can watch us there. Of course, pick up the apps. We have apps for Roku, for Apple TV, as well if you, in those different ways, choose to kind of stream those on the television screen. And we'd love to do that. Our next live broadcast coming up at 10 p.m. here in the Room to Room Weather Center. Gabe will be talking the latest on Artemis as humans, and in particular Americans, continue to head back to space, and not just back to space, but back to the moon over the next few days, a 9.5-day mission. We're just getting started. All your updates here on Mississippi Live in the Room to Room Weather Center. We'll see you at 10.
Even though Gabe grew up in Alabama, Mississippi has now become his home and his family. And one thing about Gabe is he keeps his family safe.
Hey, we're going to come back here for just a second, Gabe, before we go ahead and click that off, if we can. I don't know if I caught you in time for this. But I think one of the things that someone was asking, I saw behind the scenes a second ago there, they were asking, when is this? So I went ahead and I'm rewinding the launch here for just a moment so we can re-show the launch when it occurred. Again, a little more than an hour ago here. I'll see if I can kind of get it lined up here close to launch time, because I figure that's probably something people do want to see. Oh, there we go. Hold on. Again, this is going to be, the launch there of Artemis a little bit earlier on. And so main ignition, I'll get out of the way, but just kind of cool to watch it, because I think most of the videos like this that we have seen, over the course of our lives have been, grainy from the 1960s. There's going to be a lot of high quality stuff that's going to hit. This is from the live stream earlier on as Artemis took flight on its way to the moon on its travel of more than 242,000 miles away. Placing humans potentially the farthest that they have been in our existence, and certainly in manned space flight. So the two little white things you see on the side, those are the solid rocket boosters helping to propel that. And then the one in the middle, that kind of goldish, yellowish color, that's basically just a giant gas tank double check that with Mrs. Maynor. That's just basically a giant fuel tank of air in the middle that is, helping to propel that as it made its way up. I think it's just the cool thing, just talking to the folks behind the scenes here, as we're looking at this again, a bunch of different shots of this, a bunch of different ways, is the fact that just how fast it moved. I've been jibber jabbering on it about a minute on this replay, and if I go back here to our satellite perspective, I think it's just bonkers to me that we could see as the satellite image as it shot up in the air there, and quickly over the course of just a couple of minutes shot, and then of course the cloud that it produced dissipating there as well. So really cool. Anyway, so that's all. I wanted to give folks a chance to kind of see maybe the replay if they missed it originally. I'll pull that back up here. I'll step off camera for a moment. And Gabe, if Mrs. Maynor has some extra nugget to pass along, I'll go ahead and I will put yours on. We should see the replay of that separation here in a minute as well. Gabe, your mic's hot.
Well, she was letting me know that it was the fuel tank like you were talking about. So, but yeah, and also I feel like something that needs to be stated about the historic significance of this launch is the astronauts inside of there. And of course, we are looking at the first time that a woman is going the lunar distance, the first time that we're seeing a black astronaut going on a lunar mission.
There's that separation, this replay of the separation. Those two things going off the sides, those are solid fuel. So you have the solid rocket fuel there, and then liquid rocket fuel in the main portion. And then if you look closely, you could see both of those. There's the two boosters falling away. So those lines are those boosters. Yes, go ahead, Gabe.
And it's so cool seeing it all happen in real time. Again, just a very, very historic thing to be a part of. You're always going to remember where you were when the Artemis II launched, because this is one of 7 instances where we have sent a manned crew up there towards the moon.
And the first one is only 7 times a new vehicle's been used for this. So crazy.
It's crazy for sure. And so it's going to be 10 days like we have been talking about. And so far, everything has gone according to plan. And that's been the biggest part about this is, one thing goes wrong, then the spacecraft is turning around. So fortunately, everything is going according to plan. Folks back there at at NASA, of course, watching this over there at, the Kennedy Space Center? Yes? Is it the Kennedy Space Center?
Mission Control.
Mission Control. Is that in, that's still in Florida, right? Where
Houston.
Mission Control is?
Houston.
That's back in Houston. Okay. So the launch was the only thing that happened in Florida.
I double check with your wife. I'm pretty sure. See, now you're making me second guess.
Is Mission Control out there in Houston, Bean?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it still is.
I think so.
The Johnson Space Center. Yeah.
So
okay.
So they're back there, of course, talking.
I knew that there have been some changes under the Trump administration on how Huntsville was going to figure into all this. So just making sure. But yeah.
Yeah, and so they're talking constant communication with the crew the entire time, and letting them know step by step of what's taking place, and going to be talking to them throughout the entirety of the 10-day mission. So we talked about it at the start of the 5, so it has been a little bit of time, but NASA is going to air the live stream from start to finish of the crew up there, of course, doing their thing up in space, and then getting a view of the moon from space coming up. I mean, I don't know the exact day where they're expecting to make it to the moon, but I would assume not. It would be taking a couple days to go 250,000 miles.
Hold on. I think we had that. Hold on a moment. Let me double check. Again, this kind of a replay there. We'll have again some of that additional information there at 10 o'clock. Just kind of cool. So about day 5 to 6. So about 5 to 6 days from now. So Sunday, somewhere around 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. Sunday is when it should reach its closest point there. So while a lot of us are probably
closest point 5 to 6,000 miles as well above that lunar surface. So
it's just crazy when you think that it's moving 2,300 miles per hour. How close that is.
It's unreal how this is even possible. So really cool to see. It did have a grand opportunity. If it was 6 or 7 days out, of course, the memes would have gone crazy.
Yeah. Well, as it is occurring on Easter, it'll have its own fair share of that kind of stuff as
You're
well.
exactly right.
Hey, we appreciate y'all who've been kind of following us in the chat there. You know, I see Crystal saying, hey, we need an app on Vizio. I'd love to get that at some point. The problem is when you start talking about Vizio or Samsung or some of these others, it becomes very, very difficult for us to get on those different platforms there because they all have a different way of doing things. So hope, I'd love to say someday, but the easiest way to probably do that is YouTube. You can search for Mississippi Live Weather on YouTube, or honestly, Mississippi Live on pretty much any of your smartphone, your smart TV platforms, and you'll be able to find us if you do that there. Okay, we will see you coming up at 10 p.m. Gabe, I'll go ahead and hit the shutdown button on all this here. Thank you all so much for watching us on our live broadcast here, for all of your support, and keep it here for the latest.